What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Drew IQ. Welcome to another episode of Winners Win. Today, we're going to be doing something a little different. I haven't really been doing like news kind of sections, so I want to kind of try and make this a little different where we just cover some news that's going on right now, in the finance world. Right now, something I thought was really interesting was with this whole GameStop and BCG drama. Okay, so apparently GameStop is being sued by BCG, Boston Consulting Group, over some unpaid bills for helping GameStop. Okay, so in short, GameStop said it's going to fight the suit and that it lacks merit. BCG is saying that they are owed $30 million for the work they spent on GameStop project. That's pretty reasonable. Now, one thing that's really important to know here is that Boston Consulting Group started helping the company and try to put them on a more sustainable path in 2019. So 2019 is where we're going to be focused on and seeing, what did BCG actually do to help GameStop, right? Now, if you go through this article, it talks about basically BCG got involved before the whole trading frenzy with GameStop. So when BCG got involved, GameStop was a failing company. They were maybe $3 to $5 a share at the time. They let's be honest, GameStop hasn't been doing well back in the day. Okay, they've been on a slow down decline ever since, people kind of stopped buying video games at the actual physical location and started buying on Steam and Xbox Marketplace, right? So they were in this slump, and BCG was hired to try and bring GameStop out of this slump that they had, right? They were supposed to, or no, they did. They agreed upon a plan. Okay, so apparently they agreed upon a plan to overhaul the business, and it looks like BCG spent tens of thousands of hours on this project. They say they overachieved and creating more profit improvement opportunities for GameStop. Now, we're not going to go through everything in this article because I don't want to waste y'all's time, and I want to get down to the nitty greedy and what's actually important here, right? Now, again, they're talking about the high price consultants at BCG. Yes, BCG is a high price consultant because they are the best consultant, okay? Like, they are a top tier consultant. And if you know anything about consulting, which I do, because in IT it's very, very common, consulting is very expensive. The only cheap consulting gigs you'll get is for consulting businesses that don't have a lot of experience and they're kind of ramping up. You'll get a cheap one maybe then, because they don't have a lot of experience. But any consulting gig that has 20 plus years of successful consulting reputation, they're going to charge a lot. Okay, that's just how consulting goes. So I'm not really worried about that. But what I do want to talk about here is how GameStop talks about this right here. We do not believe it is in our stockholders' best interest to pay the tens of millions of dollars sought by BCG, especially given their seemingly meager impact on the company's bottom line. Now, that statement right there is what we are going to focus on, because this is what is important, right? This is what is important. Why is GameStop not paying a measly $30 million? And yes, guys, by the way, $30 million is not a lot of money to these companies. Boston Consulting Group is an $8 billion revenue company. GameStop isn't as good as they used to be, but I think in 2001, I don't think I know, right? Because we're about to look at it. They made about $6 million in revenue. So they're not as big as BCG. BCG is way bigger. They have way more power. They are close with a lot of other very powerful companies as well. Because maybe they didn't turn around GameStop, or they weren't the reason for GameStop, but BCG has a pretty good success rate at turning around companies and making them profitable, okay? If we look at, let's see, what did Ryan Cohen say? This is pretty interesting, right? So this is when he started to fire back, right? He started tweeting, the overpriced consultants at BCG are picking a fight with the wrong company. That, to me, right there, is hilarious. It is actually hilarious. It's really funny to me. Because I worked with BCG, I work in the IT field, I worked at a company where we hosted Boston Consulting's group entire network. We hosted their website, so I dealt with a lot of guys over there. Very good people. I loved everyone I met with Boston Consulting Group. And I actually referred my boss to try and make me a dedicated representative for BCG because out of all 50,000 of our customers, I liked working with BCG the best. The reason I liked working with them is because they were the most professional. Not only that, they had the best technology, they had the best equipment, and everybody that I worked with over there was like extremely intelligent. There's not one person that I talked to at BCG where I was like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's stupid. No, I highly respect everybody that works at BCG. They, in my opinion, have some of the most professional people when it comes to just, what's the word? Really, what's the word? There's a word I'm looking for right now that's not coming to. But they're very honest about their work. I don't see BCG, being corrupt. I don't see them. I mean, you could say every company has a little bit of corruption, right? Because there's always a little bit. But BCG is always, in my opinion, been professional. They're not trying to corrupt your company. They're not going to try and bring your company down. I genuinely think that BCG is going to try their best to make this company turn around. Okay, and that's just my personal experience. I could be completely wrong, right? But my personal experience with BCG is nothing but just great. Like, they've always were able to give us resolutions. They always were very kind to talk to and have conversations with. I never had any problems with BCG. And like, I'm not going to name a bunch of companies, but I can name hundreds of companies that I hate working with, are not professional, and I don't respect, okay? BCG is not one of them. This is a highly respectable company, and they do good work. That's just my experience, okay? So him saying that he's picking a fight with the wrong company, I find this hilarious, okay? Because BCG is not only way bigger than GameStop, they make more revenue. GameStop is not a profitable company. They aren't making profit right now, right? If you look at their gross profit margin, they're like -2, -1, something like that. But they aren't a profitable company, and we know that because we know that GameStop is going through a transformation. And a lot of times when companies go through transformations, they're kind of more like a new company, right? They're going to be cutting costs and trying to be, prioritize things in a proper way as to like, where does money need to be prioritized? So I get a lot of what Ryan Cohen's saying, and I think he's smart, but I will say he's very ballsy for this statement right here, because BCG, I just clicked on Twitter, but BCG makes more money than GameStop. They're more respected than GameStop. They have more power than GameStop because they've turned around hundreds of very successful companies. So they have partners with a lot of successful companies. Like, there's no leverage right now for GameStop. Okay? And another thing that I think is funny is that they're complaining about $30 million, right? $30 million in the unpaid debt. First off, I work with BCG, and I know that I can't say the exact number, but let's just say, I know for a fact they at least paid us $1 million a month, and they were proud to do that. And it was, I can't say exact, but it was more. $30 million, I know from experience, to BCG is like $20, okay? They do not care about $30 million. What BCG cares about is the principal. That's how crazy this company is they're dealing with. They don't care about $30 million, Ryan. What they care about is the principle of, they did work for you, you pay us for our work. Even if our work didn't give you the results you wanted, hey, guess what? Like they said, they spent hundreds of thousands of hours trying to help GameStop. So even if they, weren't really successful at helping GameStop, they spent a lot of time and effort, and time is money. So I would say they spent a lot of time and money on trying to help GameStop, okay? So even if they weren't successful, they tried to help GameStop. And in my opinion, $30 million is cheap. This is a very reasonable, very cheap price for help from a top tier company like BCG, okay? I guarantee you, there are other companies that are paying way more money to BCG. Way more money to BCG, okay? So first off, if you think this is expensive, Ryan, it's not. This is not expensive at all. This is actually really cheap. This is a very cheap. But regardless, we're not going to start talking about this specifically. I don't want to focus on this. What I do want to focus on is what Ryan is talking about right here. Why does he think that they never helped the bottom line? Well, let's look at the actual numbers, okay? So if we look at the financial statement for GameStop, they've been making solid revenue. Since 2013, they've been getting at least $8 billion in revenue, okay? 2019, this is when we started to bring on BCG, okay? If you look at our revenue here, 2020, we're down. And why won't it go further right? I don't understand what is going on here. Does it have to zoom out maybe? Yeah, that's weird. Anyways, so for 2022 and 2021 and 2020, the revenue was worse than 2019. So ever since GameStop has actually got involved with BCG, their revenue has gone down, right? If you look at their gross profit, it's not better. There is literally nothing in the financials that shows any improvements. So I get where Ryan is talking about. He's like, look, we paid y'all $30 million and y'all didn't even help our bottom line. We still aren't making money. We still are going down on revenue. We're not doing really well on our revenue when you look at our past. We have some of the lowest total revenue we've ever had in the history of GameStop right now. In the last 3 years, GameStop is doing the worst it's ever has, right? And that was the 3 years that we had BCG's quote-unquote plan to help us. So I get where Ryan's coming from. I genuinely do. I get where he's coming from because he's right. He is absolutely right. But the problem with this is when you make an agreement, that is what it is. It is an agreement where you have to pay the money and they're going to try their best. Sometimes it doesn't go as well, okay? Now, what's really interesting to me is we have no data on what BCG's plan for GameStop actually was. Because if we had an actual idea of what this plan was, maybe we can actually say, you know what? Maybe they're right. Maybe BCG is right. But at this point, it's all up in the air. Nobody really knows. But what we can do is we can go in the past, right? So like I said, BCG is a very professional company. They put out letters and they put out reasons for every company. And they go into high detail on how they turn these companies around. So if we can just kind of, look at how BCG turned these other companies around, maybe we can look at what they might have done for GameStop, okay? So this, goes into detail on basically how they took over a bunch of different companies and what did they change, during this crisis for this company to make them perform better in the future, and how did they fix this problem they were having. So they call this 5 measures to boost resilience in a crisis. Okay, so these are going to be 5 things that BCG does whenever they take over these companies. Now, I do agree with this, right? There's no single way for organizations to transform during a crisis, right? There's no one thing that BCG can do to turn around all companies. So I agree with that, right? They're talking about the right approach depends on the company's position, which is all great, all makes sense. And then he says, we have identified several measures that can help make companies more resilient in the face of a major crisis, okay? So let's look at what they talk about. He says, take a holistic approach to performance. And this makes sense. This is basic stuff. Basically, they're going to cut costs because they're trying to transform the business. So when you transform a business, the first thing you want to do, cut costs, right? You want to fire employees. You might not want to spend as much in R&D. You're going to try and conserve cash. And guess what, guys? If you're at GameStop, you guys all talk about how much cash they have. They have $1 billion on cash. Exactly, because BCG gave them a plan to focus on conserving cash because that is going to be important for this transformation. I'm not saying that this was BCG's idea, but so far, if BCG did take over in 2019, the first thing that they're going to tell GameStop is to conserve cash and put the majority of their money in cash to start cutting costs. And guess what? That is exactly what GameStop did. They started cutting costs, right? They have all their money in cash. They have lots of cash, ridiculous amounts of cash right now. It's 1.3 billion last time I checked in cash. Okay? So anyways, first thing they're going to do is they're going to cut costs and they're going to do a lot of this initial stuff to get ready to transform the company. Makes sense. Makes sense. This is also the next step. Put employees first. I love this. This is great. It says the pandemic and its impact on the workforce have reminded management teams that employees are not a cost item that can be optimized during a crisis. Instead, they are a major, if not the most major asset of an organization. Again, BCG is hitting these points perfect because, like I said, BCG is a really, really good company, guys. I don't think y'all are putting enough respect on BCG. They do good work, okay? And I've worked with them for 5+ years, and they've only done good work for me. Now, this is what I like. The companies are prioritizing employee well-being and the engagement, which is all great because this is going to build loyalty. And I worked for a company, Rackspace, and this is what they did. They have loyal employees like myself because we genuinely feel like they care about our well-being and the engagement, right? Now, this is the part that's really going to blow y'all's mind, guys. This is what's going to blow y'all's mind and what I am actually just mind blown about, okay? Because my mind's been blown. But basically, the second thing they do whenever they take over a company is first, right, they cut the cost, do all that initial stuff, make sure they're ready for the transformation. And then guess what? The next step they do is focus relentlessly on digital. Guys, do y'all know how big this is? GameStop's biggest problem was they didn't go digital early enough. Okay? If you are a huge gamer like myself, you remember back in the days when you would go to GameStop and you would buy your games at the physical location, right? And even back in Halo 2, there was a line wrapped around GameStop where we would wait to buy a physical copy. I waited 2.5 hours at midnight to get Halo 2 Collector's Edition, okay? I know a lot about GameStop and the whole physical selling of copies. And this is the problem with GameStop. GameStop waited too long to do this. This is the direct problem with GameStop. They let Steam come out. They let Xbox Marketplace come out. And all of these digital marketplaces that were beating GameStop because GameStop took too long to go digital. So this is a big deal, guys, because if BCG has proof, if they have proof in the plan, if their plan that they gave in 2019 says that this was one of their goals to focus on digital, oh my, GameStop is screwed, guys. GameStop is screwed. A lawyer is going to have no problem. A lawyer is going to have no problem arguing this. Because not only has BCG done this to many other companies with a successful rate, I'm pretty sure they did it to GameStop as well. Okay? And like I said, BCG is a serious company you don't want to mess with. They are going to have documentation. They are going to document everything they did for GameStop, and they are going to pull the receipts. Okay? So anyways, guess what? What is GameStop focusing right now on the most? Their NFT marketplace and going digital. They're getting rid of physical locations. Okay? So, oh my God, this is huge. This is huge. Because if this is true, then BCG is directly related for the transformation of GameStop. They are the reason for the transformation. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little excited here, but let's take this slowly, right? So virtually every company has invested in digital to some degree over the past decade, yet many still have further to go, aka GameStop in 2019, GameStop, okay? They're talking literally, this whole paragraph is GameStop. Oh, during the pandemic, many organizations had to close their manufacturing facilities and retail locations, aka GameStop, right? Another thing, they closed a lot of their locations. And a lot of other companies had to push toward digital and do the switch to e-commerce, right? And it was really more of a matter of survival, like they're saying. They built this infrastructure and expanded their digital capabilities. So if they did this is I don't have to go any further right now, guys. This is it. If this was part of their plan and they gave this to GameStop, GameStop cannot argue this. They can't, because their whole transformation is going digital right now. That is their transformation. That is the whole transformation of GameStop. They're just going digital. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. Like, I'm just gonna go over these other ones just so we have an idea, right? Stay agile. They're talking about the whatever the ever changing conditions of a crisis challenge leadership teams to quickly identify emerging trends, make rapid decisions on these trends, and determine when to stick to a decision and when to adapt. So, stay agile is great. You know, you need to be able to adapt, and this also comes down to just moving digital. GameStop needs to stay agile and make sure they are adapting to the ever changing conditions. And again, if BCG brought up this point, it's something else that is a good point when thinking about BCG's company, right? Now, create dedicated response teams. I think this is a great also idea because we do this over here at the company I work for. We have situations where in a crisis, they have response teams that know exactly what to do, right? He says, successful companies put teams in place that can react quickly to evolving conditions and challenges. So during the pandemic, such companies introduced new infrastructure, tools, processes, strategies, and behaviors, and then gauge the results and adjust it on the fly. So they would adjust based on their data, that's just a part of a good company, guys. You should be taking data and documentation and using this data to become a better company over time, right? Now, this is one of their examples, and I think this is one of the most interesting examples. They turned Bed Bath & Beyond around, which is really funny because a lot of people are talking about this new CEO, Mark. And this guy, Mark, also talked about BCG being overexpensive. But the problem, and the reason why Bed Bath & Beyond aren't suing BCG is because BCG clearly turned the company around. I'm not going to go through this entire article. It's really long, guys. But they literally outline everything they did for Bed Bath & Beyond, and they literally show how they improved the revenue growth, they improved the gross profit margin, and the share price really went diabolic after their involvement. So BCG has a long list of companies that it's turned around by doing the same stuff that it's probably doing to GameStop. Okay, guys? So I don't want to talk too much more about this. I think you guys get the point here. What I'm saying is, in overview, right? BCG is a company that is not going to be easy to mess with, okay? I know I love Ryan, though. I love Ryan because this is very courageous, okay? BCG has more power. Their network is huge. I don't think you understand how many companies bigger than GameStop they help, and they are still helping and have partners with. Like, it's I don't know. This whole lawsuit is going to be really based on what BCG gave GameStop in 2019 and what this plan outlines. If this plan outlines a digital transformation before Ryan ever got involved at GameStop, then I honestly think that BCG is going to come out on top, and they are going to take way more money out of GameStop than just paying a measly $30 million. GameStop would actually save the shareholders money if it would just pay this measly $30 million in debt. Okay, guys? Because now what's going to happen is they're going to... Oh, God. They got BCG, who is going to have better lawyers. And if you know anything about the court system, like I do, the better lawyers always win. It doesn't matter about the situation. Whoever has the better lawyers wins. BCG has the better lawyers, and it looks like they have a solid case right now. They have a solid case, okay? And because of this, GameStop is probably going to pay like $60 to $90 million just to settle this case, okay? So I know everybody thinks that this $30 million it's not saving us money. $30 million is measly compared to the $1.3 billion in cash they have. Just pay the $30 million. Tell BCG, to go screw themselves and never talk to them again. That is what GameStop needs to do here. They don't need to pick a fight with one of the most powerful companies in the entire world. Because not only are they going to cause fights with BCG, they're going to cause fights with every single company that BCG has helped. And you do not want that blood, I'm telling you. This $30 million is cheap. This is a cheap price to pay, Ryan. I love you, Ryan. I genuinely think you are one of the coolest CEOs out there in the market. And this is genuinely just coming from a place of passion. I'm very passionate about GameStop, and I want to see you guys succeed. But I have worked with BCG for 5+ years. I know their caliber, and I know that you probably are going to lose way more money fighting this. Actually, I don't know. I know you're going to lose way more money fighting this. Okay, Ryan? So please just pay the $30 million. Do all of us GameStop shareholders a favor. And please don't manipulate this and make it look like you are the more powerful person here, because you're not. You're just not, my man. BCG is more money. They got a bigger network. It's not in favor of GameStop, especially if BCG recommended the digital transformation. Okay, that is my case, guys. I know that was very long-winded. I hope y'all stayed through that. If you did, I appreciate it. Please drop a like, subscribe, and leave a comment. How do you feel about this situation? You think GameStop is going to actually somehow win this lawsuit? Do you think that BCG actually initialized the digital transformation? Or do you think that, BCG is just full of BS? You guys tell me. I will take care, or say you guys take care, and I'll see y'all another time. Thanks for stopping by.